Welcome to the Dating After Divorce podcast. I'm your host, Shade Curry, and I believe every divorced woman deserves a romantic relationship where she feels safe, loved, and cherished. You can create the most amazing life after divorce, and I will teach you how. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Dating After Divorce podcast. I am so excited for this episode. I'm going to introduce you to a very dear friend of mine, fellow life coach, fellow mastermind sister. I've just gotten to know and love her over the last year. I have in the virtual studio with me, Jeneffer Joe. And Jeneffer is also a client of mine. We have been working together since November of 2021, and she's here to tell you her divorce story, her dating story, and you're just going to love everything about her. Like, she just has the most beautiful spirit and the most wonderful life. We're going to talk about that too, because I am very jealous of portions of her life. So, all right, Jeneffer, welcome. Please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, thank you so much for having me in that beautiful introduction. You are too kind, friend. I am Jeneffer Joe. I am a certified life coach, and I help new and aspiring coaches break into the coaching industry. There is so much that happens between you becoming certified or learning to coach and getting started with your first paying clients. And I help bridge that gap for my clients so that they can successfully enter this business and help other people and generate income doing it, because that's what we want to do. We want to help people, but we got to get paid to do this work.
Yes. And the life coaching industry is pretty new. So this is a great time to become a life coach. I know I became a life coach because I got divorced and I had to piece together all the healing, my dating, all the parts of rebuilding my life. I had to piece it together. And so I decided to become a coach to help other divorced women. And I didn't realize that it was such a big industry that was just growing. That's just at the beginning. So for all the listeners, if you are thinking about becoming a life coach, Jen is your person. I would love, and I know usually we say this at the end of the podcast, but I'm going to say it at the beginning and the end because she is an amazing, amazing coach, and life coaching is the best career in the world. So anyway, yeah. All right. So now you're divorced. But your divorce story is just a little different from most of the people the typical divorce story. Most people don't even know you're divorced.
Yeah, most people don't know I was ever married, which is hilarious. So many years after. I was actually married when I was 20. So unlike most of your guests that they were with someone for a while and they saw a future with the person, I was actually just dating this guy in my 20s, and something really big happened in my life. I lost my mom to cancer. And that really rocks you and shakes you at your core, because you're wait, even though I'm super independent at this point, that I was raised to be, it still was this home that you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
With your parent, you're now that's gone, that safety, that security is gone. And my partner at the time kind of needed it for certain reasons. So he asked. And I'm well, I do like the idea of having someone there, and the idea of living together and creating this life and having someone that would be there to quote unquote support me. Especially now that I'm in this very strange space. And we rushed in and got married when I was 20. Yeah. Bad idea. Not in the right mental state.
Yeah. You were vulnerable.
I was extremely
in that moment. Yeah. And I know that happens to a lot of people. And even those of us who have been divorced, that period right after your divorce, depending on the divorce story, some people have grieved their divorce before the divorce happens. Some people get blindsided by it or, traumatized by it. And so I think it's really important for us women to know when we're vulnerable, to be able to recognize that, hey,
yeah,
I need to grieve. I need to be in the cave. I need safe support. I don't need to be making any big decisions about my life right this moment. Yeah. So then what happened?
Oh boy. Then our little 20-year-old selves moved into an apartment together, and things quickly went left. This person that was saying that he could support me and take care of me and do all these things, right? Because I was still in school, I was still in college, and I was working part-time, and I trusted him to be taking care of the finances, which is probably why I have such a interesting relationship with money now.
Mm-hmm.
It ultimately led to us being evicted because, yeah, and I
Wow.
didn't know that until I saw that orange sticker on my door. Like there was no him communicating, letting me know that things weren't going well, like he was struggling, that he needed me to support more. I was completely blindsided. And we already had issues like leading up to this point anyway. So I had been seeing the little therapist on campus, and I'm like, what do I do? What do I do before this even happened? And then I was like praying, I was like, God, get me out of this. Like, I don't know how to get out of this. I feel so stuck. And then that happened. And it was like, God, you're really funny. Like, this is how you're getting me out of it.
You're like,
This
here's
is
the
not what I
signal.
meant.
Here's an orange sticker for you.
Yes, here's an orange sticker. Your door is locked. All your things are inside. They will tell you when you can come get them. Go take your butt elsewhere because you can't stay here. And I was living in Philadelphia. I'm originally from New York. So I'm like, oh my God, like, what do I do? I have nobody out here. Fortunately, I had a friend who had a house, and my partner had me go stay over there. Like he was a mutual friend of ours. And I rented out the room in his house. And it was like literally the size of, and I will tell you, like legit, no lie, it was the size of like a queen size bed, queen
Oh,
size or
wow.
full size bed. Like I had an air mattress that I would blow up and I was staying there. And then I would have to stand up the air mattress so that I can get ready in the morning because there was no walking space. And I
Wow.
did that. I did that for that summer that I was still there because I still was taking summer classes. And one thing that I promised myself, despite how bad things were getting, that my mom had passed, that I was now evicted and married and like figuring things out, that I would still finish school on time. So I was
Yeah.
still taking summer classes and running through life like everything was okay, which it totally was not. Yeah.
Yeah. But you valued yourself enough to be like, I got a future somewhere after this.
Yeah.
Right. And I love that. And I think that probably kept pulling you forward, beyond the marriage. And I know
Yeah.
it's a thinking thing. A lot of, especially if you've been married to someone for a really long time, you get into what I call the dark bubble. Your whole brain and your whole life consists of that other person and what they want and the life that you have. And it's a very, very narrow, small life. And what happens to a lot of us when we do start to grow a little bit, or we start to like, it's sort of like the little hole opens up and you see like, oh, there's light over there. And it's a very tiny pinpoint of light. But if I follow it, I can kind of get to another place.
I think for me, I just knew who I was supposed to be, right? And like this was like a little detour. And I'm like, no, 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 but we still have to keep everything else on track. Like I said, I was going to graduate college in 4 years. We're still graduating college in 4 years. We're not running back home to New York. I know things are bad, but we can do this. We want to still be here. We still want to be going to school here. We will figure it out, right? And regardless of how hard it was at the time, I
Mm-hmm.
did. And eventually me and the partner did get divorced, but that came, the paper trail came much later. So we were
Yeah.
ended up married like 2 or 3 years when we were like literally together for like a year max.
Got it. So it wasn't a huge part of your story.
No,
Yeah.
but it did really impact me in the sense of like just putting my trust in another person in that way.
Mm-hmm.
The emotional roller coaster of like being evicted and not knowing what to do. Um, it, and then just like trusting him to be this person that he said he was going to be, and then he wasn't. And I found out other things later on, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is insane.
Yeah.
Like, how did I end up here? How did I end up in this?
I think we've all asked ourselves that question. I was just like,
Yeah.
sometimes I look back at my ex now and I'm just like, how? How did that
Yeah.
even happen? But I love the word that you used. You said it's a detour. Like it was a detour. Divorce is just a detour. It's just like we're always going to have this amazing life. And that marriage and that divorce was just a detour along the way. For some of us, it was a 17-year detour. But that's okay.
But that's okay.
Listen,
Back on
listen.
track now.
Back on track now. So awesome. Good for you. All right. I'm really glad to just see how I love the fact that you just kept moving forward and you like valued yourself and you're like, no, I still got my life. I'm moving forward. But then tell us how dating kind of factored in. So after the divorce, I know you said you had some trust issues there. What were your initial thoughts just being back on the market? I hate saying the word back on the market.
Yeah.
It's just like we're not for sale, but being back in the dating world, what were your thoughts at that time?
I was really turned off to men completely from that experience. And I developed a friendship with this person. And she and I got very close to the point where it became a romantic relationship. So that was like very interesting to me because I had never seen myself being in a romantic relationship with a woman. And here I was with this full on girlfriend, who I was actually like, had deep feelings for because we were friends. So very intertwined and like a really serious support system as I transitioned out of that marriage or whatever. She was there when I actually got formally divorced and I got the papers and I was like, I'm formally divorced now. But that also was short-lived because they were moving further away out of the city that we were in at the time. And that was hard to recover from because that one I was emotionally invested in like severely. So it took a few years of like rebuilding my heart, from that and believing like, okay, I could find someone that I connect with and have this amazing relationship. And I knew I wanted it and I wanted the next one to be the one, right? Like I knew whoever I invited into my life next and gave that title and said that this is my partner, like they were going to be the person that I could see myself marrying. Because I still believed in marriage. I really did want that. I saw my vision and I saw my vision in a heterosexual relationship too, which was interesting. Like even after having dated the woman, I was like, no. I see my vision. I'm supposed to be married to a man. I'm supposed to have, children, whether biologically or adopted. Like that's my vision. It's still possible for me. And I was still very young. Right. So I got back out there. I started dating. I did eventually leave Philly and I went back to New York. I was there for a few years. I dated there. Wasn't the best experience. Eventually a few years, and I was working a lot. So I can't even say like I was actively dating. I was working so much. And then I moved to Texas and I was like, okay, new place, new city. Again, I was working so much, but I knew I still wanted to date. So I eventually sought some help.
Yeah. So on the part where it's like, and I encounter this a lot when I'm talking to women who come on consults or even when my clients, when they first start talking to me about this, is that thinking about dating or how much we're thinking about it and how much we want it is not the same as how much effort we're putting into it. And it's not, and I'm not saying that to shame anyone like, oh, well, you're being lazy about it. It's just that sometimes we just don't realize that there's a disconnect between how much we want something, how much we're thinking about it, and then how much actual effort we're putting into it. And I learned some of this skill from when I was in network marketing. I was in network marketing like for about 6 months in the past. And they have what they call revenue generating activities, which is literally actions that you do that can bring you a customer versus talking about your business and doing all these others. So you might be like working on your website, or you might be working on your pictures and thinking about getting a customer. Or did you open up your Rolodex or your phone contact list and text someone and say, hey, will you buy my mascara or whatever it is you're selling? And they're like, hey, that text is a revenue generating activity versus 2 hours of researching how to sell the mascara. And it sounds like you were thinking about dating, you were wanting it, but your actual relationship generating activities.
There was a big disconnect, right? Like I definitely wanted it. I would even try to be on the apps, but I would literally last like maximum 3 months on it before I got tired of them. And I was like, okay, forget this. And then I'd go like 2 or 3 years and not like do anything. Right. And I continued that cycle for a long time. I'm like, okay, 3 months on the apps. I'm so sick of it. Done. 2 to 3 years. Don't do anything. So I'm what I call a super single, in that I've been single for like over 10 years. I have not been in a relationship. And I was like, okay, this is getting ridiculous, Jen. Like you are too young to have been single for this long. We need help in this area. And at that point, that's when I first hired my first dating coach. And I think that was like maybe 2018 or so.
Right. Let's tell me about that. So she was specifically online dating. Do you wonder exactly how divorced women just like you are meeting eligible men who want a real relationship and a commitment? They're doing it by dating with their core values. Your core values are the GPS that lead you to the partner you've been looking for. When you use your core values on dating apps, text messages, and at social events, you will easily connect with your true match partner without chasing, settling, or wasting time with non-committal men. I have taught exactly how to do this in the 2-hour Core Values Dating Blueprint course available on my website, shadecurry.com/dating. That's SADECURRY.com/dating. You will learn exactly how to identify your core values and use them on your dating profile, how to ask the right questions via text, and how to tell the right stories on dates so that you attract the right people and repel those who aren't right for you. If you're ready to meet your true match, hop over to shadecurry.com/dating or click the link in the show notes. Now back to the episode.
Online dating coach. Yes. Well, before that, I did hire my first life coach, and she was supposed to help me figure out what to do next with my career and in the dating aspect. And then from there, I did try the online dating coach. And I was like, maybe she knows something, how to do it differently than I've been doing it so I can have more success. Because you hear about people meeting their person online, like you met your partner online. I'm like, I'm hearing so many stories. And I knew people personally that met their partners online. I'm like, well, maybe there's something I'm doing wrong. Like, let me learn from this woman. And she taught me how to set up my profile, what kind of things I should put, what kind of pictures I should put. And of course, I got a lot of interest, which was never the issue for me. I always got a lot of interest from people, but it didn't lead me to finding like my person. One of the things that she had me do was like really continue dating guys until it was very 100% clear that they weren't the right ones, even though early on within a date or two, I knew that they weren't the right ones. But it actually gave me practice dating. So for that, it was good because Lord knows I was, a workaholic and I would date every 2 to 3 years. So I was a little rusty probably. So it wasn't a bad thing in that sense.
Yeah. How long did you date them typically before it became obvious that they weren't the ones? Like in the beginning, you were like, oh no, he's not my guy. But then you still put in more effort into that relationship. About how long, how much more effort was that?
It was mainly 2 guys that I did that with, maybe into like 5, 6 dates or so.
Okay.
Yeah. 5, 6 to 8 dates. One of them, really great guy, really cool. We both kind of mutually knew it wasn't a fit for us. And then he met his person on Hinge and he was like, hey, Jen, I met this amazing girl on Hinge. Like, I think there's quality people. I think you belong on there. So like, really, so yes.
Fun. Yes. I know. And I met a few people that I just stayed friends with. Like one person helped me get my first job. He job coached me to my job.
Like, great.
It was like, oh my gosh, this is,
and I actually met the girl that he met and I really like her.
Isn't that awesome?
Yes.
And I think that's one of the key things is people look at online dating like, oh, it's this hotbed of scammers and narcissists. And there are scammers and narcissists on the apps. But guess what? There's scammers and narcissists in your church and in your workplace and at the grocery store and in the bars and in your friend circle. Like those people just exist in the world. And then guess what? If you're focused too much on them, you miss the good people, the new friends, the potential partners that you can meet in the same places.
The other guy, actually, I would talk, how you talk to your girlfriends about it. And you're like, oh yeah, this one treats me like I'm the bachelorette. Like he gets a driver for us and he takes me to these beautiful places and he's like so sweet, but he wasn't my guy. Like I knew there were some big things that were going to be an issue long-term. But it was really nice to be treated in that way. Like, and to know that there's guys out there that are quality men that will treat you well.
Yeah. And the thing that didn't work with that coaching experience was that you said I guess like a lot of your friends and family told you like, hey, maybe you're being too picky.
Yeah. I felt like that was the underlying message in the coaching. Like I need to be more open. Right. And so I'm entertaining these men who I know are not right for me because again, the same line that my whole family has been saying as to why I'm still single is I'm too picky. Right. And I honestly, over the years, have always tried to be mindful of that. So I'm always more open than I'd like to be with people because I'm like, well, I don't want to be too picky and I should give them a chance. But ultimately, it doesn't result into me getting what I want. I'm like, no, I knew from the beginning that wasn't my person. Why am I being told I'm being too picky when I already know what I like? Why is that a problem?
And I will tell you, having talked to hundreds of women about this issue, I have really only encountered maybe one or two women who are truly too picky and needed coaching to be more open. The other 98% of the women I've talked to are not picky enough. Like, if you're listening to this, you are more likely to be not picky enough than you are to be too picky. It's just that people always want a reason why something bad is happening.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, I'm still single. It's a problem. It must be because X. And sometimes there are reasons why you're still single, but it's not always the most obvious reason. Sometimes it's just that maybe you're, looking in the wrong places. Maybe you are not showing up with your authentic self. That's one of the big things that I push in the program is like, all right, when you're on the date, are you being your full, authentic 100%, let them feel who you are self? Like, so there are multiple reasons why you could have still been single. But I think people just pick one or two and they're just like, oh, you must be too picky because there are people here. It's like,
yeah.
not always.
So, I mean, and that wasn't even the end, like working with that dating coach. Eventually, I stopped working with her. I was like, her process isn't for me. I did hire a matchmaker. I tried that and that didn't work out. And then there was,
can you tell the audience kind of like, because I hear this a lot, people in my consults and my clients will be like, oh, do I need a matchmaker? And I have thoughts about that, but you go ahead.
So I really thought it was like, okay, I'm not meeting enough quality men. And that's probably why I'm still single, because I have, at the time I was pretty high up in education, like pretty smart girl. I'm over here coaching teachers, developing curriculum. Like I had my own company at this point. And I think I was like already started as a coach. Right. So I had shut down my educational consulting company and transitioned into coaching. So I'm like, I'm doing a lot of things. I owned a home. Like on paper, I'm kind of a big deal on paper, right?
You're a big deal on paper and off paper, girl. What?
Thank you, friends. So I was like, maybe I'm just not meeting men that are at this caliber, and I need some help with that. Maybe they're just not hanging around these apps, and I need a matchmaker to find the men for me, right? So I work with this matchmaker, and it was a terrible experience. Like it was so terrible, sadly, and I don't think all matchmakers are bad, but I will say she was unprofessional in the sense of she wasn't showing up to the calls regularly. She always had excuses. Her database wasn't as extensive as it needed to be to find me what I wanted. And again, she was iterating that, oh, maybe I need to change these standards of some of the things that I picked. Right. And I think that's what was so refreshing about coming across your content. You were the first person to say, no, you should be picky. You get one person. You're looking for one person to spend your life with. Like if there was ever a time to be picky, this is it. Right.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, yes. Like I deserve to be picky.
You do deserve, we all deserve to be picky. I mean, like, and not even just about our relationships, about our lives. Like it's okay to want what you want. It's okay to go for that big life. It's okay to go for the money. Hello.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Then I feel like in the other areas, right? Like I'm going for that big life. I'm living what I want. I design things the way that I wanted to. And like, yeah, I deserve to have that in this area too. And it's not impossible to get.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And matchmakers, I see them as on the equal plane as apps and meeting people in your network. And those have been my thoughts. They're not necessarily better. They are a way to meet people, but you have to approach them with the same principles as what I teach about dating in person and dating on the apps, because I think in our brain, we think, oh, more money means a better person, or more money means he'll be more compatible with me.
Like more quality. Yeah. Higher quality may. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just
not necessarily the truth. Yeah.
And you've seen how the worksheet that I give you for like your ideal partner, and people are like, oh, I have 10 things. I'm like, oh, no, we need to get to like 60. And it's like, that's too many. And it's not like 60 external picky, he needs to be 6'5" and wear, I don't know what kind of fancy shoes. It's not things, it's those human qualities, those subtle cues. We really try to break it down into those human decency, how you want to be treated, how you want to feel when you're with that person, and identifying how you're going to recognize it when you're with the person. So it's not like we're saying he needs to have a jet per se.
Yeah. No, I love that worksheet of really thinking about my partner, because it was in thinking about all these qualities. I was like, am I exhibiting this as well? Right? Am I matching this? the way that I want him living, am I currently living like that? And I
Yes.
think finally now I truly am a reflection of what I want in my partner. So I feel in such alignment in saying, yeah, I deserve to get someone like that because that's what I'm
That's what I'm
bringing
doing.
too.
So, yeah. So
Yeah.
tell us about this amazing life that you are living right now. Make space for this.
Yeah. So once I transitioned into coaching full time, I knew that even before I transitioned to coaching full time, I actually announced this in 2019 that I wanted to be traveling abroad. I wanted to live abroad for a few months. And I planned on leaving and doing that in 2020. But with the pandemic, it kind of delayed my travel plan. So finally, this year, well, last year, 2021, because now we're in 2022, I made the leap and I put my things in storage and packed my bags and started traveling. So I have been traveling since November. So,
And this is January. So 2 months
yeah,
now.
2 months. I told myself I wanted to be out of the country at least 3 months. So far I have been to Panama, I have been in Colombia, and I think I will try Mexico, a few places in Mexico before I
Mhm.
decide to go get my dog who's waiting for me in Houston and pick a place to like settle for a few months. Yeah.
Right. And you've been dating these last 8 weeks, actively dating while
Actively
traveling.
dating. Yes, I have been very focused on my dating journey, meeting a bunch of different people, connecting and having a good time with it. Like I think that's very different than the way that I was doing it before. Like I have to hurry up and get to this person. I've really been enjoying getting to know people, seeing different parts of new cities with them, being me, right? Regardless if I felt like
Yeah.
there was like a romantic connection or not. Like I'm like, this is a great person. We're gonna have a good time and taking a lighter approach to it, but also evaluating whether or not this is someone who meets my criteria long term.
Yeah. And it's interesting. You started working with me, what, the week you left the
Like
States? Like a few days before. I feel like it
right
was
before,
like
yeah.
right
I think
before.
during my first call, I was like literally in Panama. I was like, yeah, I just got to Panama, just
So
got
that
here.
actually presented like a different challenge. And I love that because it showed that the principles that we use in the Dating After Divorce Academy are applicable wherever. If you've just landed in a new city, you can take this and meet people. So tell us, can you share a few stories about who you've met, how you met them, what it's been like? I know you had a little cute story about a little girl. If you're willing to share that story, the little girl at the restaurant, if you
Oh
want to share that story,
yeah.
I totally love that one.
Oh my God, that was so cute. Yes. So this was, where was I? I think I was still here in Colombia, in Medellin. And nope, lies. I was in Panama.
Okay.
I was in Panama when I saw this little girl. I was sitting at a restaurant and there was a little girl coloring at a table. It was clearly her family's restaurant. Like her mom was cooking in the back, her dad had just dropped her off from school, so she's there. And she watches a mom and a son enter the restaurant and sit down. And the little girl runs over and gives the little boy, not the mom, a menu. And then the mom just smiles at her or whatever. And they look at the menu. 2 minutes later, she's back at the table and she's asking the little boy if he wants to play with her. Like she was so focused. She shot her shot. And next thing you know, those two kids are running around playing, having a good time. And I was like, I need to be like that little girl. I need to be more
Yeah.
proactive in like showing interest. Like if I see somebody that I like, I need to go up there, not offer a menu, but like open up a conversation, right? And so when I was touring here in Colombia, a few days later, I was visiting this little town that they have. I saw this man, he was sitting by himself, clearly looks American, right? Because the Colombian people were trying to talk to him, and he's like, I don't know what you're saying. And he's sitting there eating his sandwich alone. I went up to him and I was like, hey, are you by yourself? And he was like, yeah. I was like, me too. I'm from, New York originally, been traveling for a few months now, here checking things out. I don't have anybody to take pictures of me, and I'd like some pictures. Would you mind walking around with me? And I can take pictures of you. You can take pictures of me. And he seemed to have like a little pause, like he wasn't sure what to think
It's
of
like, is
this.
this woman gonna lead
Yeah,
me into a kidnapper's den or something?
exactly. Especially in Colombia. Like that is the thing. You gotta watch out. So he was like, okay, like, and he kind of wasn't sure. And after a few minutes of him not like actually actively taking me up on my offer, I went back and I sat down for a second. I was like, okay, scrolling through my phone. And then he comes over. He was like, hey, I would like to take some pictures of you. You want to go walk? We actually ended up not only seeing that one place, but we spent the whole day together. We just checking out a museum, different plazas, having lunch, having good conversation, very nice. And at the end of it, we hugged and followed each other on Instagram, and we comment on each other's stories and things like that. Nothing romantic, but a very nice time. And it was me
Yes.
stepping out of my comfort zone to actually initiate, which was a huge deal, which I never did before.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was like you took an opportunity. Like it didn't turn out to be a match, but it could have.
Yeah.
And like
How cute would that have been if I was like, yeah, I just saw him and I approached him
that would have
and
been
now we're
such a great
married.
story. And you are going to have an amazing story. It's just that you have to have all of these mini stories. And I think that's what is missing with a lot of women's journeys is they don't collect all these mini stories, all these mini adventures along the way. They just want to have that one shot. They're like, no, how do I do it so that the first person I talk to is my husband? And I'm like, I'm not sure I can help you do that, but I can help you meet 100 good men. Yeah. And chances are one of them will be your person. Now, before that day, we had actually coached on a call about going up and talking to people. And you were like, I can do a lot of things. I can show up at dance classes. I can show up in all these places, but starting a conversation is a problem. So what changed?
I'm a good student. Listen, I'm a good student. Graduated top of my class, and when I'm in a situation where someone's telling me like, hey, this is the next step, I'm willing to do it, even if it's uncomfortable. I'm like, okay, if this is what you're telling me I need to do to get the results that I want, I'm all in. Like, okay, I will be uncomfortable. But if this is going to get me my man, let's go. I will do it.
And going and starting those conversations is uncomfortable. Like it really is. Like in that moment, you're in a room, everybody looks beautiful, everybody looks like they know what they're doing. You look inside, you're like, I'm awkward and weird. And I'm not saying you in particular, I'm just kind of putting it out there. I never think that I'm awkward and weird. Right. And in that moment, I have to say, okay, I'm here for this. This happens at business meetings, networking meetings. I'm like, do I want what I want? Or am I going to let this feeling that I have inside kind of win? Or am I willing to feel the discomfort of stepping out of my comfort zone? Am I willing to feel this awkwardness and just let the awkwardness be there and see what's available to me on the other side of it? And you did a great job with that. I love that. So how many men do you think you've met in the last 8 weeks?
Oh my goodness.
How many quote unquote good men, even though they weren't the one that would you say you've met?
Like actually just swiping on conversations or like actual dates?
Well, so give us conversations that maybe you didn't go on a date and then dates. Because there is a difference between conversations and the dates.
Conversations, maybe more than 30, because my queue stays full.
Yeah.
So at least the initial conversations, I'd say a good 60 initial. And then
you just weed some of them out and
I
don't want to go on a date. It
falls out. Yeah. You don't make it past a few back and forth messages. But actual dates, maybe I want to say around 10, but I'd have to go back and look.
That's a little over one a week.
Yeah. It was 1 week I did like 4. Yeah.
I love that. And this is what happens when you're like, okay, this is the thing. I'm doing the thing. I'm going to take the steps. I'm going to practice. And I call it, I've started coining it active dating. Some people are like, I'm dating. And then I ask them, are you actively dating? Yeah. And in the group, I will check in on how many conversations the ladies have had and how many conversations you've had, how many dates you've had, how many dates are on the books. Like we have that accountability so I can tell when someone isn't like engaging, which means that there's usually something else going on underneath, and then we can kind of deal with that. So how do you feel about your, I don't want to say prospect. See, I don't like the words that we've always used for the dating world, but before November, you looked at dating one way and your prospects of meeting your person one way. And then now 8 weeks later, how does it look to you?
It looks promising. I think me being like exemplifying what I want in my life, right? And being like showing that to the world and living the way that I am and showing people that I'm traveling, I'm around and meeting people from everywhere, right? All walks of life,
Mm-hmm.
different countries, different backgrounds, really is opening me up to more opportunities to meet more of what I want, which I felt
Yeah.
like before I was like in this space and I wasn't sure that my person was there and I wanted a bigger pool. And now I definitely have a huge pool. So yeah,
Yes. Yeah,
yeah,
you created that. You were like, I want a bigger pool. I've only been dating in one city for a
yeah,
while. I want a bigger pool. And that's, I think, one of the things that I believe the creativity that's required to meet your person is not just to say, oh, I was on this app for 3 months and it didn't work. So now I'm done. It's like, wait, if your person was out there for sure, and it was in your power. I teach personal agency and you being in control of your experience as well. How would you do it? And I know that's sometimes hard for a lot of people, and this is where coaching can really help. How would you do it? And you engaged in that. You were like, okay, if it's in my control, how would I do it? And you've literally created this situation where your queue stays full. And I love that. Love that. So happy for you.
thank you.
I know we talked a little bit about when we were prepping for this, like the fact that you help coaches get started in their business and I help women get started in dating or improve their dating process. And we were like, there's
Yeah,
so many parallels,
there are.
so many things that new coaches or people who want to be coaches aren't doing or they think they're doing. Or tell us a little bit about what you help, how do you help them overcome that ability to go out and get a client or to believe in themselves or choose a program to coach people on?
Yeah. So one of the first things that I work on with clients, even when they are certified or they're not, is like owning what they're already bringing to the table, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
owning their skills, right? Like whether it's personal experience that you've had, whether what you've learned in your training, own it. Like in creating a container for them to like really like step into that being like, okay, this is in my toolbox. I got this. I can help people. I think that is relevant to dating in the sense of like, you got to own who you are. Like, I got to own all of me. Like, and I got to bring it to the table and show it because I don't want someone falling in love with the fake version of me. I want them to know who I
Mm-hmm.
am at my core and I need to let them see that. Right. And so new coaches need to let people see, like, hey, this is who I am. This is how I help people. This is what I'm capable of. There's also this phase of what I call coming out the closet as a coach. I'm going to do a whole challenge about this for my community because I'm like, so many of them went and got the paper certification. They're like, okay, I'm a coach, or I set up shop, I have a website. And
Mm-hmm.
nobody in your circles knows though. Like you think
Nobody
you're
knows that you're a
magically
coach.
gonna find out, right? Like they're gonna stumble across your website someday. No, that's not how it works. You actively have to go out there and tell people,
Like the
right?
people who are dating, but nobody knows that they're dating. They're secretly on
Yes.
the apps. It's like, no, your network needs to know because who better to introduce you to someone good than your friends and your family? And if your community isn't great, then we need to change your community and build you a new network.
So you remember, like there was one time where I was like, oh no, I sent messages to people and I told them, hey, I'm open to dating if you know somebody.
Yeah.
Guess what? This morning, my godmother, my family always tried, they're more concerned about my dating life than I am. My godmother sent me a message and she's like, hey, when you have a minute, give me a call with the camera on. I want to introduce you to someone. And I'm like, what? So I call her and I'm like,
What?
what's going on? And she's like, oh my God, you look so pretty. Great. Then she takes me over to this person that's working in her office. She was like, hey, he knows people in Colombia. And I told him he could, if he could find somebody for you, I wanted him to see what you look like.
Nice.
Yes. So that
I
happened this
love
morning.
that. I one of my really good friends from high school, and he was always a really great guy. He's happily married. I mean, at a stage in our lives where like, I don't know, 50% of the marriages, maybe more in, from my generation, I guess, are falling apart right now. I think I was like one of the earlier ones that fell apart because I did get married a little younger. So, my class, I guess you could say my high school class, some marriages have fallen apart, et cetera, et cetera. But he's such a great husband, such a great dad. I love his wife. She's like so cute and adorable. And they do such amazing things together. She's actually a coach in Nigeria. And one of the days I was talking to him and I said, hey, how did you meet your wife? Like, tell me your story. You guys just seem so in love and whatever after all these years. He was like, I worked with her mother. After
Wow.
college, when he went to work, her mother had worked in that office for like forever. And that's how he met her. And I don't know if the mother was like, oh, this is my son-in-law, I'm going to make it happen, or if it just happened organically. But listen, your network, the person you're going to marry, chances are already in your network. So learning the skill of opening up your network, letting people know, giving them permission. I remember my most recent client who met her person a month ago. I had to give her friend wanted to invite her. And I'm going to talk about this on that podcast, which is coming up. But I'll say this now. Her friend wanted to introduce her to someone. And the friend asked the guy, and the guy said, yes, I'd love to be introduced. And so she said, yeah, I'd love to be introduced. But then the friend didn't know how to do the introduction. So my client came back to me. I said, she doesn't know what to say. And I said, okay, these are the words. Tell her to text these words to the guy.
That's so funny.
Sometimes it just gets right down to that wire where we have to learn how to do these things. None of us took a class, and it's so important that we know how. And I love what you also said about
be automatic, like, like getting another job, but like this is an entrepreneurship journey. Like the mindset required to step into being the CEO of your business is very different than the one that you've had all your life being an employee or being a student, right? Like this is now much more, just like you're saying, passive. This is active work. You have to actively pursue the act of like seeking out opportunities to put yourself in front of clients and how to sign them. Right. Yeah. And it's the same for dating. Like, it's not just going to happen with me hanging out here in my house, hoping one day.
It did just happen then when we were in college.
It was easier. We were
single.
Yeah, it was easier. You were in a space with a lot of other single people. You were going out with friends. You were like in community with these people. Like it was just a lot easier. Now we have our full-time jobs, our businesses. Some of us have kids. Right. You have to actively pursue this. Like even I didn't have kids and I was still young, I was a workaholic. I was like not making time to go out and meet people. Like it wasn't just going to happen. Like one day he was just going to show up at work. I worked with a bunch of women. Like
that's true. Because you were a teacher.
Women and kids. Yeah. I was in education. It was women and kids.
Yeah. 100%. And that's one of the things it's like, you just have to figure out if I want this.
Yeah.
Even though I have these challenges, it doesn't have to stop me. Every challenge on the way to starting a coaching business, every obstacle is just one more to-do thing. Oh, I need to fix my time management. Oh, I need to make more time to do this. I need to learn how to do this. Same thing with dating. Okay, I've got kids and I've got a job and I've got a business. Okay, but I still want a husband. Every challenge
to do the right things, right? Because you can spend a lot of time doing the things that don't matter in the coaching business, right? Like spending time on the website and trying to come up with the right language for this page and, going into ads way before you're ready to do that versus actually having someone that has gone through that journey and helping you understand what's actually required to get the desired results. And that's why I'm here with you. Cause I'm like, okay, what's actually required to get these desired results? Cause I want the results. Yeah. I want to stop wasting time doing the wrong thing.
I know. And I mean, your online profile is important, but it's not that important. And people spend so much time on I showed you guys in the academy what my online profile looked like, right? You guys are like, remember that? I posted it in the Facebook group.
Oh my God, no, I need to go back and see.
You missed it. Maybe you were traveling at the time. Yeah, I posted my Bumble profile from 2018 in the group. It was just like not the thing. Like, I don't know. There were plenty of profiles that were better than mine. But it said what it needed to say to show who I really was to attract my person. Yeah. Right. And that's what was necessary. And the other thing you mentioned about owning who you are, I know there are a lot of some of the work that I do, especially with my one-on-one clients, is owning who they are as a divorced person. Because there's just so much stigma around it. Like coming on into the dating scene, a lot of women feel like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm too old. I've got baggage, quote unquote. I have my air quotes on. And I'm like, no, that's not who you are. And some of the work I do in my one-on-one coaching is I help them go back into the marriage to reclaim all their strengths. And I think I did a Loving Your Past Self episode. For those of you listening, if you want to listen to that, I talk about this.
Yeah.
building that self-concept that lets you truly own who you are as a divorced person dating again. You already have everything. It's just you tend to focus on the negative and not focus on your strengths. And even as new coaches, we tend to forget. I mean, I'm not that new anymore, but I remember a time when I focused on what I thought I didn't have to offer as a coach versus what I did have and what was super important and super valuable to my clients.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you mentioned like loving your past self. I just did this meditation where, and like I posted about this before too, but this meditation reminded me of it. Like, I love the version of me that started when, a few years ago coaching, like her, like, you know how Facebook will show you like videos from the past.
Yeah.
I show up with my hair looking a mess, no makeup looking tired, but I am out there and I am promoting and I am just like really trying to tell people and give value and share this with them. And I'm like, she did that. And like, that's why I have this life now, because she was willing to do that, afraid, uncomfortable, and uncertain, and show up to create this business that I have now. That's amazing.
That's amazing. All right. So I'm going to let you tell the ladies your best advice for dating in 2022, because it's just January. And I know this month, a lot of people are like, okay, this is my year. This is my year to meet my person. This is my year to really get out there and actively date. So what would you like to say to them about, dating, about meeting their person, your best advice for everyone listening?
For me, for someone that's been single for a long time and now still going through this process, I would say have fun. Have fun. Make it fun for yourself, right? Find the activities that you naturally just gravitate to and enjoy and go do that. Like, live your life the way that you would want to with your partner. Live it now. Right. And know that they're coming and that they just get to now like enjoy it with you, but don't put your life on hold in this process. Just find a way to make it enjoyable for yourself so that you stay in it, because what happens, right, and what happened with me in the past is like you get burnt out so quickly after a few months of trying, and then you stop for so long. You're not creating the result when you do that, right? You have to stay in the game until you get the result that you want. And it's possible and it can be fun. Like, I really am enjoying it now.
100%. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Jen, for your time on the podcast today. So for everyone listening, and I know like most of you are divorced, wanting to build your best life. If your best life after divorce includes starting a coaching business, for sure, check out the show notes. I will link all of Jen's social media links and her website in there. But for those who just want to write it down, Jen, could you spell out the best place for them to reach you?
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun on Instagram lately. So you can find me at Living Out Goals with an S on Instagram, or you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Jen Joe Coaching.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate you telling your story and just giving us your insights. We're looking forward to the rest of your journey. Like, it's already obvious that you're going to meet your person because like one or two dates a week now consistently.
Yeah.
Yes, you're good to go. It's going to happen. So we will have you on the podcast again to tell us all about your main person here in a few months. Thank you for your time today. And for everyone listening, I appreciate your time and attention. Thank you. And I will see you next time. Thanks for listening today. If you are ready to get married after divorce, I want to invite you to download my free 8-video training specifically designed to help divorced women date with ease and get married again. Head over to sadecurry.com to get started. That's SADECURRY.com. I'll see you inside.